What's up? It's your boy E.T. Look, if you're looking to or you got to raise the bar on your marriage, you gotta click the link and get into Married into Crazy, y'all. I'm telling you, this coaching is gonna take your relationship to another level. Now look, you already know you need to raise the bar. You know that already. So stop thinking or overthinking. Click that link, and Marriage into Crazy is gonna take you and your spouse to marital bliss. Now you know. Click the button. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Married into Crazy with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey.
I'm Snooks. I
And,
had to make sure that the microphone was on. Sorry.
oh my goodness. So she always says, so here's what happens, folks. I start off the podcast saying, are you ready? I'm going to hit record. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm ready. I'm like, okay, you sure you're ready? Yep, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I hit record, she starts doing stuff.
No, I just want to make sure that you did not forget something. Because before, and see, I didn't even check to make sure that we're recording off of the microphones instead of the computer. Because that's happened before. It's just being fair, you know. So that's just it. So anyway, welcome back to another wonderful episode of Married into Crazy with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Snooks. He's Lovey.
And this is marriage, y'all. I'm just telling you, this is marriage. Wow. Look, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Married into Crazy podcast, we want you guys to understand that what you hear, this banter is 26 years in the making. We've been married for 25 plus years. And it's one of those things where we just kind of get into it. And there's going to be lots of love, lots of joy. But there's also what?
That wasn't getting into it. It's like we just get into it. I'm just like, that was just me looking.
See, I was talking about the podcast, but that's okay. See, folks? See, folks, see what she does?
No, you weren't. Okay. Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Low key, like if you guys like if you see in the chat or whatever that I start typing help, you know why. But no, we want to thank each and every one of you for coming back. We've been married for 25 plus years, mm-hmm. as I had stated earlier. We met under some really interesting circumstances. You have to go back to the very first episode, Bamboozled, to actually hear that story, which we'll probably revisit in a few episodes. And there's just a whole lot of stuff that happened. I got stabbed, had open heart surgery. Oh, I got stabbed by her ex-boyfriend, by the way, after he attacked her. 2 open heart surgeries. I wasn't good enough for her, so then she asked for a divorce. She did ask for a divorce. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough for her. It was just that I had a lot of growing up to do. So we went through some stuff, and there was a journey along the way. And so we share a lot of our story, and we bring you the stories of other couples via interviews. Mm-hmm. We bring on subject matter experts in a variety of areas, whether it's spirituality. We've had pastors on. We've had sex coaches on. We've had health coaches. We've had a variety of different individuals that contribute to the well-being of a marriage. We've had singles on. We've had a singles panel. So many different things that we do to really invest in your relationship, because I think that it takes a lot of different perspectives to help us really, A, appreciate what we have, but B, also give us some tools and some resources to add to our little grab bag, if you will, of tricks and things to move forward in the trade. What?
Tricks? Like we have tricks for our marriage?
Tricks aren't just for kids.
Tricks in our grab bag. I was like, what is he talking about?
She doesn't understand the Jedi mind tricks that I play.
Okay.
I get her to do what I want.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't trying to be bringing up stuff that is not anybody's business. So
she's talking about them tricks.
The grab bag.
Funny. We do have a grab bag. We'll talk about them tricks on a later episode.
Anyway.
No, but it's one of those things. First and foremost, we're here for you, mm-hmm. and that's the one thing we do. And second, we're here for ourselves, because in sharing with you the things that we learn, the things that we're exposed to, it really helps our marriage as well. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to ask you to do, firstly, on your list of things to do, is if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please go there and give us 5 stars. Put 5 on it and leave a review. Talk about what your favorite episode. Make it more discoverable so we can actually expand the conversation. And then if you want to learn about all the different things that we do when it comes to Married Into Crazy, you can go to marriedintocrazy.com. And the plethora of ways that we invest in your marriage are listed there. And we encourage you to invest in your marriage as well. And there's ways you can do that on our website. It ranges anywhere from $10 upwards. It could be the personal coaching, the couple-to-couple coaching that we do. It could actually be a video series that's available to you. It could be some of the clothing. Let people know how crazy your marriage is with the gear that you wear. The weather's turning. There's sweatshirts. There's these little cute crop sweatshirts for the femmes. There's hats. There's mugs. There's so many different things. And soon to be, there's going to be the throw pillows that people have been asking us to put on there that we've been rocking in our house. And so we think that you should have them as well.
So just real quick, just before we go any further, just want to reiterate what crazy actually stands for.
Yes, ma'am.
Crazy is an acronym that we use. It's the 5 pillars of what we teach on, and it stands for compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, and yielding. So crazy. When we say be crazy in your marriage, always be crazy in your marriage. There's never too much room for craziness. That's what we're talking about, not the crazy in the negative type of way. So
Not all the time.
well, I mean, there is some of that too. Just be real, because
Look, life is crazy. The world is crazy.
but our crazy
is a different brand of crazy.
Yeah.
And she's right. That's what we teach on. And so one of the parts of crazy, because we want to be compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, and yielding, there's aspects of that we need to incorporate or improve upon almost daily. There's always something better that we can do. And in all the couples that we've coached and we continue to coach, and even the individuals for premarital, the one thing that keeps coming up is, how do you have spice in your relationship? How do you add spice? How do you keep it saucy? And more than that, how do you get past some of the challenges that you've had in the past and continue to move your relationship forward? So I think that that's what we want to talk about today, is to talk about a variety of different ways to continue moving your relationship forward when there have been challenges.
So, but let me ask you, what do you think? I mean, because everyone has their own perspective of the best. What has worked for you?
I think personally, what helped tremendously was recognizing, and it was right around that year 4. Everything for us, year 4 was magical. It was traumatic. It was painful. It was humbling. That was the year that our 4th year of marriage, on our anniversary at dinner, when Snooks asked for a divorce. It was illuminating. It was debilitating. And it let me know that there was work that needed to be done. And I think our blessing was the fact that we recognized that we were willing to, well, initially we weren't willing to put in the work, but through a process, we recognized that, you know what, people have told us that a successful marriage requires work. But at that moment, the knowledge piece became it became, I don't know, visceral. Like, okay, we have work we need to put in. I think the number one thing was that recognizing and understanding that successful marriages take work, and we have to actually start putting in that work.
It's funny, that saying where it's like when it hits home, it's like you see this destruction or whatever it is, and some people can empathize, some people can sympathize, some people have compassion, and others don't relate. But it's not until it actually hits home and you're like, oh, got it. This is what this really means. That's what that really feels like, so.
No, you're right. What about you?
What about me?
No, I mean, we're going to talk about more than one point, right?
No, no, that's all I got. No.
She's like, I'm good. I was perfect. What else do you need to do so you can contribute to this successful marriage?
No, like you said, there a lot of the things that you said for yourself, it was illuminating, it was humbling, it was
you're talking about that year 4.
It was painful. Yeah, that year 4, that the turnaround. And it's funny, even though in all of that bad stuff, it was very magical, because I feel like that's when the magic happened. Like, that's when stirred in the potion or whatever.
Right.
We learn things about ourselves um, and each other. And when we how do I say this? We decided to do the work and we discovered what that work really meant,
It-
because a lot of times, I'm sorry, but a lot of times when you hear people, it's like, oh, it takes work, and it's always negative. It's almost like
right.
crazy. You hear crazy, and immediately some people will think the negative. Same thing about putting in the work for your marriage. It's not negative, it's just work. Work is work. It's what it is. But I guess it depends on what work means to you.
The relationship you have with that phrase, and I guess the perception that you have. But I will say
Mhm.
this, and you probably, we should have prefaced everything with this, that sometimes the things that we want are on the other side of pain, right? So the majority of the things that we truly want in life,
Mhm.
oh, I want $1 million in the bank. I want, it's going to require a level of sacrifice that you've never had before. It's going to require you to do things that you've never done before. It's going to require you to stand out. And there's pain involved in that, because not everything, there isn't a single billionaire that's going to be able to tell you, or a single, multimillionaire that's going to be able to tell you that I got here without sacrifice and pain. But the things that we most want in life, even in our relationships, are always on the other side of adversity.
That's true. Because I want to lose 20 pounds.
And it's on the other side of a
It's
lot of work.
painful.
Not for you, but I mean, for everybody. I want
No,
to
for
lose weight.
me.
I want to get a degree. I want to, it,
All of those things.
the process is always somewhat painful. You got to get out of that
Mhm.
comfort zone. That process is something that's going to take work, but the thing
Mhm.
you want is always on the other side. It's just a matter, are you going to stick with it long enough? And part of that realization, this is the second thing, is that I had to realize that I can't change you. You asked for the divorce, and I immediately thought, she's out of her mind. But it wasn't about me having to change my partner, changing you. I had to recognize that things I needed to do, that I had to change myself. And if I could change myself for the better and contribute at a higher level, then that's all I can control, controlling the controllables. I can't control what you're going to do,
Mhm.
but I had to trust and pray that you were going to do what you needed to do. I was going to do what I needed to do. And I wasn't really necessarily even concerned with what you had to do. I had to work on me, whether it was going to be in this relationship or the next, but I had to work on me to be able to contribute at a high level.
It's funny because it's not funny, but that is like one of the biggest challenges I think that
Mm,
couples have, because we focus so much on what it is that I don't like, and what I don't like seems to stem from you or the other person or what the other person is doing. Well, all she got to do is, or all he got to do is, and it's always what that other person has to do. It's never, well, let me see why I'm getting that type of reaction. What is it about
right.
me that is causing this type of reaction? What is it? And sometimes it's not you. I can't change anything within me. This is how I feel. If you're gonna be a cheater or a liar or something like that,
Well,
that's
yeah,
a character type of
yeah.
flaw.
If it's a major character flaw, that's different. But a lot of
But
times,
I can change how I respond to
there you go.
how you do things or what you're doing or whatever. And sometimes it just requires for the person to change themselves, because once I make a shift or a change, it's gonna a lot of times it's gonna get your attention, and you're gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, you ain't responding the same. What's going on?
Right.
Like, I mean, it'll give you, make you take pause, hopefully, if it's in a positive way. But you'll stop and be like, oh, well, why she ain't, or why he's not. And then this is what I feel, and I feel like this has kind of happened with us. We really started studying each other. I'm like, I'm seeing some changes. I'm checking you out. And I feel like you could have been the same. You're like, okay, that's different. So let me see where this is going.
And let me try a little bit
Let me
harder.
investigate. Oh, yeah. Because if you see I'm putting effort in, I keep cutting you off. You see I'm putting the effort in, then, or I see you're putting the effort in, that's going to make me be like, okay, All right, So, and then too, what talks about arguments.
We didn't argue a lot.
No, no, but a lot of people when they argue, and well, the lack of some too, because if I'm just going along with whatever's,
Avoidance.
yeah, you know, fight or flight,
Hmm.
we've already discovered. I'm like, I'm out. I've
Yes.
been fighting all my life. I'm done. I felt like Oprah. I ain't finna keep fighting. You know.
No, but one thing we had to discover though, when it came to the arguments or lack thereof, it was one of those things where it was normally it was the act of avoidance or or the act of really getting into it always stemmed from either some pain, some internal pain
Hmm.
that we're experiencing. And we thought it was an attack, but more times than not, it was like, I'm addressing something that's extremely painful to me.
I was about to say, so we have to figure out what's going on in our own heads. Why am I responding this way? Because I mean, you're not a hurtful type of person. So for me to respond some kind of way about something that, some things you do hurt my feelings, but I know that it's not like the intentional hurt or the
It's not
pain or whatever
malicious.
like that. So I have to really think through what's going on with me. What is this trigger, you know?
And a lot of times our the initiation of arguments, fights, or whatever, sometimes it stems from a fear that we have. Not just pain that we have, but it might be a fear of something that may happen, may come to pass, which isn't necessarily rooted in reality. It's something, a narrative that we've created in our heads. And so these are things, if you want to get your relationship moving forward, it's about recognizing these things that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you feel like something's holding you back, address your fear. Really take time. It's like that scene, if you've ever seen the movie Hurricane, where uh, Denzel Washington was in the jail cell and he was sitting there and he was talking to himself and he was going out to these different personalities, but they're all within himself. But he was having like a deep introspective discussion with himself and his fears
Mm-hmm.
as a black man in that time frame. And we need to do that to a certain extent ourselves when you get into our relationships and address the fears. Well, why do I feel this way? Not just I feel this way and you need to acknowledge it. It's like I feel this way, but why do I feel this way? What's causing me to feel this way? Is this valid? Is it something that she did or something that he did? Or is it something that I'm still carrying from a previous relationship? And yes, this is part of that work we're talking about. You want the joy? You got to be willing to go through the pain. It's Rob based DJ Easy Rob.
But also, kind of when you just talking about that, it's like we have to understand that we are different, you
True.
know, and if we can celebrate our differences, or even if you don't want to say celebrate your differences, just be respectful of the differences,
Hmm.
you know. I respond totally different from the way that you respond. I don't necessarily know that it's because it's a woman or a man thing. I think more it's just about the personality, how we how we respond to certain things, we are just very different, but it's weird because we're very different, but we're a lot of the same. No, I won't even say that it's weird. We're different, but we have the same type of values.
I agree with that.
So
It's funny though. You just mentioned, I just want to touch on this. You mentioned it's not necessarily a man or a female thing because back in the day, there was a book called Men Are From Mars,
no,
Women Are From
women are
Venus.
for Venus. Yeah.
And when that book was written, there were a lot of truths that the masses agreed with.
Hmm.
But I honestly believe that some of that is changing over time because a lot of what was popular culture was rooted in gender roles.
Hmm.
And there were some things that were accepted that were never a status quo, if you will, that was never truly challenged. The man went out and worked, the woman stayed home, was the homemaker. And then that started shifting in the 70s and the 80s. Not completely, but then even more so in the 90s, it really started shifting gears. And there were non-traditional roles, and we call them non-traditional just because that's not the way it was done historically. So some of this pop psychology that went along with that, we're looking at these gender roles where people think that men are very different from women. It's not even really about men and women so much as it is because a lot of that was rooted on testosterone and estrogen. And we're discovering that men have levels of estrogen, women have levels of testosterone. And it's not even about the aggressiveness and the hormones, but there's also personality types. There was a lot of suppression over the years when it came to your specific personality or your preference and tendencies that you like, because it wasn't very ladylike
Mm-hmm.
or it wasn't manly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were seen as being too passive, what if you were? So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we actually teach on DISC. We're certified to administer, facilitate, and we use the DISC quite often in our coaching. But if you were, and so we'll probably go into about that in a later episode. But there's certain personality traits that are involved with the DISC, and a variety of others too, like the Colby. There's so many out there. But if you were what we call a ground screw, or you're very high in that stability, the S, when it comes to DISC, you're very accommodating. You wanted to make sure you're very team oriented. You're really there for support. The man had too much of that. They thought he was effeminate.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and it was attributed to gender. And it's not that we're different men and women. We are in ways, but it's that when it comes to relationships, it's not about Mars and Venus. It's about really respecting the individual and getting to know each other and what our preferences and tendencies may actually end up being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily rooted in gender. So I'm glad you actually brought that up.
Oh, thank you. But I mean, I feel like too, we don't celebrate the differences are not celebrated enough. There's one thing that we I've said to our daughter, and I have to tell her sometimes, if someone is too much like you, then you're not needed in the relationship. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
great.
it's like appreciate, respect, and celebrate the differences of other people.
And that's what
So
makes relationships extremely wonderful, because we're very different. And I guarantee that the majority of the couples out there listening right now will recognize that you and your spouse, more times than not, operate from a different end of the spectrum, and you fill in the gaps for each other.
mhm.
Sometimes you're going to find that there's a few out there that are very similar, and the challenges are based on the fact that you're battling over who does what because of the similarities. But there's still love there. It doesn't really mean that opposites attract, but I think that's true for many of us. But I also think that sometimes what you love about yourself is also what attracts you to some other individuals. And it's not narcissistic. It's just that there are some phenomenal traits, values, like you talked about, that brings it. But it's about recognizing that in each other, and standing on those things and emphasizing those things and celebrating those things that can also keep your marriage moving forward.
Mhm. I
And
agree
and
with
in recognizing that, it gives you the chance to honor each other on a daily basis. You see something, a strength, honor that, celebrate it on a daily basis. That'll
Mhm.
move your relationship forward as well.
Well, it will move it forward and also will take away from the need to be competitive. There's so much, I shouldn't say so much, but I feel like um, there's a lot of competition within relationships. Uh, who's who's the best, who's whatever. But if we just take time to honor each other, you do this really well, I do that really well, whatever it is. But when I honor you, I feel like it shows that I won't say I'm extra committed to you, but I think it helps you. It makes you feel good, doesn't it?
It does. There's a matter of feeling respected, and cherished by the one that you love.
Mhm.
That I don't know, puts a little extra umph in your step.
Yeah, it goes back to I see you doing the work, so that makes me want to work harder too. So
The greatest challenge for me in that is I'm not one that takes compliments very well. Haven't been historically, and I'm working on it. When somebody, even at work, when people give an accolade, you're like, oh yeah, well, I was just, da, da, da. So we have to be willing to accept
mhm.
praise from our spouses as well.
Yeah, because that could be kind of hurtful. I mean, we don't look at it like that, but if I'm always telling you, "Oh, babe, I appreciate this," or you did this really well, thank you so much, blah blah blah, and you're like, "Oh,
That's no
it's
big deal.
like you're
Whatever.
yeah, it's almost like you're brushing off what I'm like, bruh, I just said no."
No, and honestly, then it starts to condition you to not to feel like you don't need to say it.
Yeah, he
And
don't
then
care.
that's
That's
like,
what I would
oh,
think. You don't care.
And you know what, folks, this is real talk because this happened with the flowers in this house. So early in our relationship, I used to give Snooks flowers all the time.
I don't know if he did all the
I
time.
felt like it was all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, but I don't think that it was.
It was a lot
Was it
for
a
me.
lot? Okay, yeah, there you go.
It was a
There
lot
you
for me.
go. Say that part.
No, but it got to a point where she started saying, you know what, and this is when we were having our rocky period in a relationship. And she was like, oh, I don't really need that. I don't like that. You know, it's okay. It's just, it's whatever. So I
No, I'd
stopped.
be like, thank you. I was still mad. So
But I was like, okay, well, that doesn't help. So I stopped. And then over years, she was
Mhm.
like, why don't you give me flowers anymore or whatever?
I never said that.
The girls called me out on it. Our daughters definitely called me out on it. But I had to really investigate. Why don't I? And then I traced it back to,
Mhm.
I felt like she just didn't do it. She didn't want it. It was like she blew it off. So why do it if it's not appreciated?
Right. And that is so funny that you bring that up too, because here we are years later, we've been able to work out that incident and call it the thing of year 4, and we've gone on to having another kid, which is Kiki. We've done all these different things together, and that's the one. I won't say that's the only thing, but that's one thing that continuously comes up. Not like I'm always asking for flowers, but that sticks with you,
It does.
and so we have to be mindful. This is just a reminder for people how words are hurtful, and sometimes it takes years and years for someone to get over. I'm
So you're saying I still
I'm
need
not
therapy?
no, I'm well, yeah, but I'm not knocking you, but this is just an example, cuz you know how people be like, he just need to get over that, or you need to get over that. I don't know
True.
why you still blah blah blah, but it's like, uh no, it's easy for me to say cuz I'm on the outside looking in, but I don't know internally how you're feeling. You know how much I love you. Everybody in the whole wide world knows Snooks loves her some Lovey. But it does not stop you from that little thing, you know, in your head, like, oh, you see a flower. Ugh, I'm cringing, you know.
Yeah, it's a Pavlovian response. You know, it's like, ugh, just because it was something that was painful in the moment. Like I thought I was doing big things. It's all right.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, if it makes me think of, if my 12-year-old little girl is still inside of me hurting, 40 something years later, then why would something that happened 20 years ago, why would it not still kind of affect you when you were putting your all into it?
See, we can go deep on this subject. I mean, there's so many different areas that this applies. There could be the things, look, hey, let's just keep it real with grown folk. There could be things that you're done in your moments of intimacy in the middle of sex where you think you got your signature move and it ain't doing nothing. Right? Or it's not doing what it used to. And because you've been so stagnant and growing and trying to change things. There's just and then you think, okay, well, you know what? You don't like it when I do that anymore. So then you stop doing it. And then after a while, guess what? Spouse goes, you
Right, right.
right, you don't do that no more. Hmm. Well, who was he doing that with? Or whatever.
Exactly.
But it's just there's that constant feedback loop that we need, and that's part of this book. If you read the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, you'll talk about there's a feedback loop that is in there, and we need that feedback loop in everything. Not only just offering it, but also receiving it and
Mhm.
understanding the importance of being a good receiver as much as it is being a good giver. But that's something else. Again, we're talking about ways to move your relationship forward, whether you're a newlywed or you've been together 30, 40 years. One of the greatest things that I guess we can tie it in earlier was recognizing that there's really no place for anger within your relationship. It's an absolute relationship killer, and it will stop any progress.
Well,
Now, I'm not saying that there's not things you shouldn't be angry about.
I think it depends on, what your response is in your anger. Because some
Mm,
people get upset and
lash out.
lash out, but other people get upset, they hold it in. Some people get upset and they're mature enough to be like, you know what? I didn't appreciate it, nor did I like when XYZ happened. So I think it's just a way, the response of what we're
I feel
doing
that.
with those emotions. Because what does the Bible say? The Bible says, be.
Respect your husband. Oh, what part are you talking about?
That's the one scripture he knows. No, but be quick to speak or slow to anger.
Slow to
I mean,
anger.
the part before the slow to anger part, I can't remember. I want to say that's what it is. But we have to remember that be slow to anger because sometimes misunderstandings happen.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we're blowing it out of proportion. And there are things that you could say that you can't take those words back. It's not like you can regurgitate, the words like you gave that illustration a while ago about the fence and the knives. I can throw the knives in the fence and I can go take the knives out of the fence, but the damage to that fence is done. To never be, I can't cover it up. Have to replace the whole fence with some new wood. And unless you're trying to replace your whole relationship with another man or another woman, be very careful.
So yeah, let me switch that. Instead of saying anger is a waste of time, let's just say that be slow to anger. Take time to calm down. Recognize why you're angry, why it's affecting you, and talk about not that individual, but why that action made you angry.
Yeah, anger is like the root and the fruit. So the anger is the fruit. So let me look at the root of why I'm upset at this. Why did that make me so mad?
She teaching?
I was.
Come on, girl. Come on, girl.
But you know what I'm saying? We need to stop and really think about why did this make me so mad? Because honestly, sometimes our anger is just about us being self-absorbed because I'm not getting my way and I'm mad about it and blah, blah, blah. And
and recognize, folks, that just because if you haven't mastered these skills yet, which a lot of us are still trying to master, it's about being immature in your relationship or mature. And it's not a negative thing. To say that you're immature in your relationship, in your marriage, is not a negative. It just talks about, like, if you look at wine, when wine is bottled or put into a cask, it's immature. It's still wine. And then as it matures and ages and does all the things, takes on the notes of the oak casket or the cherry wood casket, it gets all these different things. It changes the aroma. It changes some of the nuances of it. That's what life does. And just to say that to recognize that you're immature in your relationship is not a negative thing. It's just recognizing and saying, I know I need other resources that's going to help me actually mature more in different aspects of the relationship. And that's why you need regular tune-ups, meaning getting input from like-minded, well-meaning couples that are where you're at, or getting coaching like we talk about with Married into Crazy Coaching. When we teach on those 5 principles, compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, yielding, being more of all those things in a relationship, it comes from a place of maturity because we've had to go through that. We've had the immature relationship. Not that we still don't have hints of immaturity at time.
I don't.
I do. Because I can be King Petty.
KP.
Right? I can be King Petty on any given moment. But I recognize that. And when it starts to happen, I'm able to course correct more times than not, 95% of the time. I'm just being true. I'm being honest.
That's funny. King Petty.
But it's one of those things, but the regular tune-ups, right? Having that iron tribe that we talk about, having that iron tribe around you helps you say, okay, you've got some other people that you've given license to say, oh, wait, hold up. What's up, bro? Why are you talking to Ronald like that? Or you stepped a little bit out of line. Are you sure about how you really going to do that? Here's what an iron tribe does.
It keeps you accountable.
2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks now? When I was at the 120 conference?
Yeah, it will be.
So
by the time this comes out.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was in Chicago for the 120 conference with went to go see E.T. and Mustafa and Gonum and Nikki and all these different individuals, right? These different speakers. There were some great speakers there. You have to get to an ETA sponsored event just because it's phenomenal and you'll get poured into. But while I was there, I have an iron tribe of women that look out for Snooks. Meaning, like, not that I'm doing anything wrong, but it's one of those things like They're like, oh, what you gonna do when you? This is a real conversation. Oh, too bad Snooks couldn't come. So what are you gonna do when you get back? I'm like, what do you mean?
Go to work.
I was like, one person, I think it was Overland, was like, so what are you gonna give her when you get back? I'm like, what am I gonna give her? She gonna give me. She gonna be blessed. And these ladies were like, wait, hold on, player. Wait, hold up. You better take her some flowers. You've been gone. You left her with your grandson, and and they were going in. That's an iron tribe. That's gonna be like, wait, hold up. They knew they had license to give me direction to help me rise to another level. And they're looking out not for just Snooks, they're looking out ultimately for our marriage to make sure that there's cohesiveness when I get back. And so that's what you need when I talk about it. So those regular tune-ups, it comes in the form of coaching, and coaching comes from a variety of directions, but it's got to be from a mature group of individuals that you're willing to get poured into. It can't be that one like, oh man, forget her. When you get back, man, you need to take some time, do your thing, go in the lab, study. That would have been complete neglect on my part to come home, dive in the office, and then start to really decipher everything and still leave her to deal with the kids.
That's funny because I feel like
That's exactly what I did.
no,
Oh,
but you had the angel and the devil or whatever
oh, right.
on your. It's like what part are you going to listen to? Because I'm sure that when you came home, I won't say I'm sure. I know when you came home how tired you were and how you're like, oh, I want to take all this information. Super excited about being there. He was super excited about all the information and the tools and stuff. And when you get something new, you just want to dig in and just
It's the
do
red
your
shiny button,
thing.
right?
Exactly. But instead of listening to the little devil on your shoulder, be like, forget that and forget them out there and go, like you said, into the lab and just take time, even decompressing for yourself. You were like, nope, let me talk to my wife. Let me, love on her and interact with the children and, you know,
It was,
do my thing.
and you find ways to do it, but it helps when you have other people that are also looking out for you and providing those tune-ups.
But also, so the part of the other part of the tune up is doing something together. It doesn't have to be anything that costs a whole lot of money. You could read a book together. We have we call it the check-in. We do our check-ins, making sure that each other are good. And if one has an issue, we talk about it. Okay, what are we gonna do? Blah blah blah, whatever. Um, what? Oh, you got me all off anyway. But if just read a book, go on a walk, something that tune up just for you and your spouse or your partner, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's true. And as crazy as it sounds, Snooks is extremely crazy busy, right? Mad busy. And
Mad busy, y'all. And sometimes I feel like Lovey doesn't respect my mad busyness.
I respect her madness, just not the busyness. No, I do. But it's one of those things where, believe it or not, doing this podcast is something that Snooks and I do. And it's
Mhm.
part of our process of coming together and sharing. But this is also a way for us to become, a little bit more enriched. Not just the podcast, but when you're talking about doing things together and taking the time. I do a lot of that because she's my best friend. Your spouse has to be your best friend. And I know that so many individuals have different thoughts out there about, oh, it's got to be separation. I've got my best friend and then I've got my wife. I get that. I have best friends as well, people that I've had around me since going all the way back to first grade,
Since he was knee high to a button.
right? I have friendships go all the way back to first grade, but my best friends go back. I have one that goes back to fifth grade, and I have like three others that go back um to like my ninth grade year in high school. And we're tight as can be. We're family. But as tight as we are, my truest best friend is my wife. And I look forward to her. I can't wait to actually, confide in her, talk with her, seek consultation with her, asking her advice on things. Going out, I get excited about I want to go do stuff. And then it breaks my heart when she doesn't want to. Like I wanted to go on a safari in Barbados. She didn't want to go. My best friend didn't want to go. And I didn't want to go by myself. Now, there are things I will do by myself, but in those instances, I want to share it with her.
Mhm.
And we have to have those things that we do together so that way you can find a way to stay best friends,
Yeah.
become and stay.
I believe I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I like you said, there's differences, I guess, about your spouse being your best friend. Kind of just like you said, you navigate, and I'll say this about Lovey. Lovey can navigate the best friend folder very well because I know that we are best friends, but I also know that he has his majors.
Majors and my
He
minors.
has majors and his minors, but he knows how to navigate that. I never feel like, oh, you spend more time with them or you act like you want to spend more time with them. I never feel anything like that, and I think that you would say the same thing. It's not ever a matter of, is my best friend that's outside of my marriage going to harm my marriage or take away from my marriage or take away from what it is that we do together as best friends. They
Yeah.
have their positions and they have their roles, and I have mine.
And real talk. If anybody's listening to us right now and thinking, oh, I don't know, man, I need to get away. I just need time away. I'm going to challenge you in that thought. Yes, we all need time to decompress and have our alone time, but I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself in why do you feel like you really need to get away?
Mm.
Now, I want to go hang out with my boys. There's times where I want to go coach. I need my away time where I get on the court and I'm coaching with the girls and my fellow coaches. And I need that because it fulfills a part of something that's part of my core values, the things that I need, that I like to do. But if it ever got to a point, because I've been in relationships where it was like, I can't wait to get to the gym just to hang out, just to get out of this house. I can't wait to get to the club with my boys. I can't wait to go golf, just so I can, these different things. And I recognize the feeling between needing to get away because I felt like
Mhm.
it's not someplace I want to be at home.
Mhm.
And I that's very different from my time. Like, okay, I need my Zen moment where I go over here because I need to fulfill this part of me as well.
Mhm.
Not that my wife doesn't fulfill me, but it's one of those things where there's other parts. We're multifaceted individuals, and there's certain facets that need to be filled. That Snooks won't let me coach her. She won't let me. You know, my daughters wouldn't let me coach them all the time in volleyball. But I got a bunch of other little girls that will actually let me coach them in volleyball, and they actually place value on what I have to say. And I need that fulfillment. But that's something that Snooks wouldn't give me. She's like, please, I won't even let you coach me on how to cook some rice.
Wow. Are you serious right now? Okay. Okay.
No,
I
but
see.
but here's the flip side of that. As much as we've said that your wife should or your spouse should be your best friend, you're each of us are responsible individually for our own happiness.
Mhm.
No one's going to complete you.
Mhm. And I think that that's something that's very important. You probably need to say it out loud again for the people in the back, because we have this thing in our heads like, oh, and I've said it too, he just makes me so happy. No, you don't make me happy. You make me feel good. Do you make me
I think I contribute to the
happy? You
happiness.
contribute to the happiness. It's not like I was so downtrodden and then Lovey came along and I'm just like,
Hey, girl, I'm here now. Your happiness may begin.
right,
I am joy.
you're Gaston from Beauty and the Beast or whatever. But we have to find our own happiness within ourselves, because there are, listen, in our relationship, as much as we love each other, as much as we why are you laughing, as adore each other, best friends or what have you, there are moments where I'm just not happy. And if I take it to the point where I'm like, it must be Lovey, the reason that I'm not happy is him, I'm just gonna try to get rid of him.
Hey, and let's linger there for a minute. And I'm just being in all seriousness. How many times has that thought crossed your head out there? I'm not happy. You haven't done this.
Mm-hmm.
We've had clients in the past, over the years where the failings of the individual to know what makes them happy, to know themselves, the failure on our parts to not know what makes me happy is projected on the other individual, like, okay, it's your fault
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know. And what it ultimately was, like, I don't even know what makes me. When you get to the root of it, you were talking about the root and the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the root, I don't even know what makes me happy.
So how fair or how unfair would you be, or are you being right now, to put that pressure on your spouse or your partner to say they don't make me happy, so I'm looking for something else, when actuality you need to be looking for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Cuz all that, whatever's in my head or what have you, I guarantee you, if you, even if you did remove the other person, you might feel differently for maybe a week or so. But if you're still not truly happy with yourself, what you were feeling last month or however long it was, that is still going to creep back in.
It's true.
And now I will say this, Lovey kind of said it. He contributes to the happiness. He's one of the things that he's my little thing.
I'm her thing.
You're my thing. You're my
I'm your toy.
my possession.
I'm your boy
Yeah, you're
toy.
my boy toy. Oh, you are younger than
Hey.
me, so
That's right. It's my cougar right there, girl. That's my cougar.
but I'm saying, dang it, I forgot what I was gonna say. Start
See,
talking about cougar and stuff.
because you got that feeling. Well, speaking of that feeling, but Coach Mavis, we've had Mavis and the Bishop on the show,
Mavis
and
McKnight.
Mavis McKnight, sex coach, certified Christian sex coach. And one of the things she talked about, even when it came to just sexuality, it's like, can you possibly take your sexual fulfillment and put that burden on somebody else when you don't even know what makes you feel good?
Yeah, that was gonna go on. That's where I was going. Not on just the sex part, but that's unfair. If I don't know what makes me happy, I should find that out. I really, really need to find that out and stop looking at my partner and waiting on my partner to make me feel some kind of way. Because lo and behold, my partner is his own person, and he may have a bad day. And so he have a bad day, I have a bad day, then we clash. Oh, we just don't need to be together because neither one of us is happy, blah, blah, blah. And it's not even, it's like, what? We just blew everything up out of proportion, when that wasn't even.
Truth. Come on.
I'm
And
done.
it's just, folks, I mean, I can't tell you how many times over the years we've had conversations with individuals that honestly did not know themselves. There was no self-awareness because they went from being, I'm just going to use an example, and I'm generalizing, but they went from being someone's daughter or son
Say that. Mm-hmm.
to becoming somebody's either parent or somebody's spouse, to becoming somebody's parent. And then they go through this entire life cycle. They're 20, 30 years invested. And at no point did they ever discover who they were. Their identity was caught up in being, I was your daughter or I was your son. Now I'm somebody's husband or wife. Oh, now I'm somebody's parent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I'm somebody's grandparent. And you've been doing things to please your parents. You've been doing things to, your joy came from, or at least you thought you found success or a little bit of fulfillment, making your parents happy, making your spouse happy, keeping your children happy, keeping, playing with your grandchildren, keeping them happy. At what point did you take time to discover what made you happy?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all getting some free coaching right now. I should be charging for this, but it's one of those things where honestly, you don't know what brings you joy. So you can't place the burden of, oh, you no longer make me happy. Well, what makes you happy? Well, I don't know.
I just know it's not you.
Right. And that's not fair.
No, that's not fair.
So you got to get into it. That's the tune up, getting the coaching. And honestly, you have to give what you want to get. It's the give get rule. We talked about this. That's part of our series when we get into raising the bar on your marriage. There is a section there called the give get. And the give get is you have to give what you want to receive. We've talked about this multiple times. In order to receive in order to get the forgiveness you need, you have to be willing to give that forgiveness. In order to receive the love that you want to have. You have to be willing to give that love. But it also comes back to knowing you, having that joy. But all these things, what?
Yeah, and I just had some on my mind. Go ahead.
What's on your mind?
Well, just kind of the whole when you talk about be willing to give what you want to get. We're too caught up in, and I'm generalizing also, we're too caught up in, I don't want to be the first person to do it,
Hmm.
number one, because I'm worried about how that's going to make me look. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh, I don't want to, I'm not going to say I love you first because I don't want to look dumb, or I don't want to. Okay. So you want him to say, or you want her to say, I love you, or you want them to do, but you're not willing to take that first step and do it anyway. Is it, do we care more about what we look like, or we care more about what it really is? So when we're talking about give what you want to get, you have to be willing to take that step and do it. Because hey, if you take the step and you do it, and the other person is not where you think, is not where you are, or is not where you think they should be, or now you have concise information in which you can make a decision on. You're not just floundering around wondering, well, I don't know, should I not? No, if you're not where I am, because I'm headed in a specific direction, and if you're not in the same direction, then okay, now I need to make a decision on, should we even be
That part.
together?
These are all valid topics that need to be actually addressed. And it's these are all components. Look, if you're in the kitchen right now making something, let's say gumbo, you're putting all this together. These are all different ingredients. Everything we've talked about in today's episode are just different ingredients. You might find that in your specific relationship, the DNA for your marriage, that you're good on this. Oh, I don't really need that particular part, but I need this. You're going to find that all these different things, it doesn't mean you throw all the ingredients in. It has to be the ingredients to your taste.
Mm.
Recognize, take the time to recognize what's needed in your specific relationship, what's needed in your marriage, and apply these ingredients accordingly. And these aren't exclusive. There's other ingredients, but you have to discover that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is just more like some breadcrumbs helping you get from point A to point B. And we really hope that you take note of these things, go back, listen to it again, share it with friends, tell all your friends, tell your mama, tell your auntie, tell your cousin, tell everybody to listen to the Married into Crazy podcast. Because not only do we have these nuggets and different things that we picked up and learned from others, but we bring you couples. And I can't wait till later on in this month when we bring you another amazing couple.
I can't wait either.
I got to do some editing because there's some work. They're making me do some work on this one, but we'll announce it here shortly. But until the next time,
Be blessed.
bye.
Bye bye.